You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey, GH fans. Well, Jason Morgan and Drew Cain are about to be single dads once Sam McCall is killed, but will they step up for their kids or flake out and leave them to Dante Falconeri to keep raising? It's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and let's dive into these deadbeat dads and how their lives will soon change, but please subscribe if you're not following us. So right off the bat, I want to clarify why I'm calling Jason and Drew deadbeat dads. First off, what I mean is both of them prioritize other people over their children. And I'm not talking strictly about financial support, but that may also be the case for one of them. Let's start with Jason Morgan. He's been playing dead for 3 years, but even when he was in town, he was not much of a dad to Jake Weber. Back in June 2017, Jason returned as patient 6, and Jake had been resurrected 2 years prior in 2015. But when he came back, Billy Miller was playing Jason, and then when Steve Burton came back, they changed Billy over to be Drew Cain. I will say that Billy Miller's version of Jason was a good dad to resurrected Jake Weber. And for a little while, when Burton returned as Jason in 2018, he began to spend time with Jake, but he wasn't exactly a devoted dad because Jason always put Carly Spencer and Sonny Corinthos before everyone, before any woman he dated, and even before his own children. And he never financially supported his kid with Liz, because we have seen over many years mentions that Liz would work long hours and there was some mentions at a time about her money being tight when she was raising a kid of a guy with big time mob money, right? And, you know, Lucky has been off being a deadbeat dad, and then her third baby daddy is dead. So Jason has been a financial deadbeat dad. The first time he has showed up to do anything financially for Jake was paying for school when he went off to Europe. So, you know, and the kid I'm talking about him being a deadbeat to in this case, of course, is Danny. But it's important to note what kind of dad he is overall to both of his son. And what's really troubling, honestly, about Jason also is that he puts Sonny and Carly's kids before his own kids also. I fully believe that. It's sad, but it is true. When Jason first came back to town after being gone for years working undercover for John Cates at the FBI on rogue missions, if you remember, Jake didn't want anything to do with him. And then more recently, Jason was thinking about confessing to being Kate's killer and going off to jail and bailing on his kids again. And then he put himself in danger to go get Lucky, meaning he'd be bailing on his kids again. So it's like Jason doesn't think about his kids. He thinks about other people that he's sacrificed. It's just, and Sam gets frustrated about it. Liz gets frustrated about it. Viewers get frustrated about it. So anyway, when Jason was back, Jake didn't want anything to do with him. He thought his dad was just a thug, a dirtbag. And Jake and his brother Danny Morgan wound up fighting about Jason physically. But at least Jake has a great mom in Elizabeth Weber. Danny is another case. Now, he has a great mom in Sam, but his mom's about to die. And we know that Sam hasn't been very shy about pushing back on Jason for taking risks since returning to Port Charles. She doesn't even want him around their son. Jake has been very critical of Jason, but his other son, Danny, has been all gung-ho about his dad. Behind Sam's back, Danny snuck out to see Jason, wants to learn to work on motorcycles, ride a motorcycle, wants to wear a leather jacket like his criminal father, hero worshiping him, all things that Sam doesn't want for her son. And let's be real, Danny Morgan's everyday reliable dad is Dante Falconeri. He and Sam moved in together as a couple. Gosh, it's been like two years ago. And they've been co-parenting Dante's son, Rocco, her son, Danny, and her daughter, Scout, and occasionally Dante's ex-stepdaughter, Charlotte Cassadine. Once Sam is dead, though, what's going to happen to Danny Morgan? Will Jason Morgan actually step up and be a real dad and provide a proper home for Danny? History tells us that it's unlikely, right? I mean, surely Jason won't keep living in a room above Bobby's diner and running around cleaning up messes for Carly and Sonny, right? Right? Maybe. But the sad thing is, he might keep doing exactly that. I could see a scenario where Jason asked Dante to keep his son Danny because Sam would want her son to be in a stable home and not with a criminal. And if he asked him, I think Dante would agree to keep Danny. And I actually do think that's what Sam would want for her son. However, if Jason doesn't step up once Sam dies and for once in his life be a real father to Danny, then he's a true deadbeat dad. And at that point, he'd have proved it. All right, let's flip over to Drew Cain. He was gone from Scout Cain's life for several years when Peter August and Victor Cassadine faked his death in that plane crash, brainwashed him, and they were using him as a mercenary. None of that was his fault. And then Drew got out of that mess and he came back and he, was being a pretty good dad to Scout. But then Drew decided it was more important that he protect Carly Spencer so she would be there for her daughter. And so he decided to go to prison because he prioritized Carly and her daughter over his own daughter, Scout. That's what he did. And that's kind of what Jason always did, choosing Carly and her kids over his own children. And then Drew went and did the same thing. And these days, we rarely see him with his daughter, Scout. Drew is either on the campaign trail or trying to get his hands on Willow Tate, his nephew Michael's wife, or banging Nina at work. And with Sam McCall dying as soon as next week when she has that liver donor surgery, I'm just wondering, is Drew going to step up for Scout or duck out on his daughter? Now, he's not been a financial deadbeat. He has not. Jason was mostly, but Drew has not been. But he was an emotional deadbeat as far as I'm concerned when he took himself to prison and abandoned Scout to protect Carly. He chose Carly over his own daughter. That was just a deadbeat dad move. So would Drew also ditch his kid and leave her with Dante to raise? I mean, at least with Drew, in his case, he lives at the Quartermain Mansion where there are other kids running around, plenty of adult caregivers who love children. So I could see Drew bringing Scout there, but then that would separate her from her brother, Danny, right as they're grieving the loss of their mom, Sam. So that's kind of problematic also. So if it was up to me and I got to decide what was best for Sam's kids after she died, here's what I think should happen. I think Jason should move back to the Quartermain estate. That's the answer. And then both Danny and Scout could live on the property and both their dads would be there, Jason and Drew, and the siblings could remain under the one roof. That would keep them safe. It would keep them around their fathers and very importantly together. And it would keep those two idiots from being deadbeat dads to these two grieving children. And then we could have Scout and Danny still able to hang out with Rocco when they want to because they've, been like siblings together. They could still see Dante, who has been like a stepdad to them basically. And they said on the most recent GH episode that Sam's donor surgery was in 2 days. Soap days don't always run like human days. We know that. But on the Friday, October 18th episode, that should be the last scene of Sam with Alexis, Molly, and Christina. Kelly Monaco posted a photo she said was the last scene of the Davis girls together. and the outfits they were in are the ones that they wore on Friday's episode. So the leaked info I've seen says Cyrus Renaud drugs Sam's IV bag while she's recovering from the donor surgery, and that she dies from an overdose of digitalis, which could go undetected because the doctors may think Sam died from complications of the Lulu liver donation surgery. Kelly Monaco said the exit they wrote made no sense, and she insisted that her firing was retaliation against her. It all seems very sketchy to me, but given that she already filmed Sam's death scene, we know it's a done deal. And now what I'm just worried about is that Jason and Drew won't step up and do right as single dads to Danny and Scout once their mom, Sam, is killed off.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.